Hello, Sharon from Mad Paper Crush here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I decided that I really needed to redo my ephemera holder. I like the pages on the inside of it, the pockets that I've made with the clear pockets so I can kind of see what's in everything. I like that part of it, but the cover is really loose. So you can see it's just made from cardstock, from like 12 by 12 cardstock. And it's just, so whenever I pick it up, like I'm always, kind of fiddling with it, and it's, it's just a little too loose for me. So I was thinking about somehow to redo it. And I think if I put it in like a real book cover, that would work. So I was looking around my stash of books, which I have a ton of them, and I found this one that is like just the perfect size, and it's got a nice big spine here. And I was thinking about even taking off this cover and either restitching them in, or just taking off part of the cover, maybe the pockets and stuff, and then binding it into this book spine. So what I'm going to do today is just this isn't a tutorial. I just thought I'd bring you along with me if you'd like to maybe try something like this, or if you have, a situation like this where you want to try something different, you can see what I did. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Okay, so the first step, which I already mentioned, was finding a book that was the right size. So I have way too many books. And if you're a junk journaler, you probably know what I'm talking about. So I had plenty to choose from, and I found one that I think is going to work perfectly here. So this one is Swanson on Swanson. I think I picked it up at a library sale. I got it because I like the nice big pages. The pages are nice and sturdy, and there's also lots of really cool pictures in here that I thought would be fun to be able to, cut out and use in journals and things that I make. So I want to keep all of that stuff, of course, but the spine itself is, it's kind of torn a little bit. It's seen better days. It's the spine is actually a little bit broken, so we're gonna have to maybe work with that, but I think I can. So the first thing that I did was I actually cut the spine off. So if you haven't seen me do that, I have lots of other videos where I do that, but I took the book block out, and we'll save this for all the goodies that are on the inside. But I want to use this spine, or use this whole book cover, I should say. And as you can see, when I took it out, it was starting to come apart, starting to rip off here. So I definitely would like to do something to just reinforce this a bit, to make sure it's sturdy when I put something back into it. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is just take a little masking tape. This is cheapo, well, it's not real cheapo, I guess it's Scotch 3M masking tape, and I'm just going to try to line this whole, from about here to here on this spine with the masking tape to give it some reinforcement there. Okay, so as you can see, I just lined the whole thing with masking tape on the inside, and I even wrapped it around to reinforce the top and the bottom edges. And I can already tell, I can already feel that this has already got some more, you know, sturdiness to it. So that's where I think that's good. That's where, you know, I wanted to start. So I am going to put something on the inside of it, probably some fabric or something, you know, to cover this up. And we're going to cover, you know, the whole front as well. So we have this started going, and I think that's a good start here. So before I do anything else to the cover, I'm just going to put this to the side and start working on this. Now, I have to figure out if I'm going to deconstruct this. I kind of don't want to, because like I said, I like how the pages are all put in here and put together. But it, you know, gives me plenty of room to, you know, I even have my little flat lay envelope in here, that fits in between my signatures because there's so much space here. So, I don't necessarily feel like I need to re-sew all this stuff in if I don't want to. But I think that the sides are too bulky. So like if I take this and put it in here, I mean, it fits in there pretty good. And you can see it's a little bit smaller. So, you know, it actually does fit in there pretty nice just as it is. But because I'd like to, you know, maybe line the inside of this and maybe add some pockets on the inside of this, I think I am just going to do a couple things to cut this down. So let's see. I think what I'm going to do is first I'm going to deconstruct my cover. So I'm just going to pull off, you know, the pieces that are sort of 3D. So there is fabric on the end, so we'll have to see what to do about that. But I'm just gonna like take the lace and the decoration off, and it might be kind of, well, let's see if we put that here. I could maybe, oh no, I don't think that's going to work. I think I am going to have to cut this down and add different pieces on. So let me do this. I'm going to cut down the spine of this just a little bit inside the bending point here. So maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in there, I think. And actually, maybe I'm just going to trim it off at the fold right now, because then I can maybe make a decision on what to do next. So this, let's see, what can I put here to prop this up a little? I don't know if that's going to work. I want to try and use my rotary cutter to cut this off, but because it's not flat, and I really would like to have a ruler in there, maybe I can turn it around this way. Let's see if I can hold it down. That didn't work too bad. And then I can maybe reuse these once we get them back in. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Oops, I have to turn it this way. And just cut the pocket pages off. So that worked nice. And then I can use these again if I'd like to. But I kind of wanted to keep the spine of this relatively the same width, because as I said, it fit pretty perfectly in here, you know, with that spine. But because I want to line the rest of this, like I think I want to put some, you know, end pages or something in here. I didn't want those big pockets on there. So I think that's a good start. We're going to figure out how to line the back of this now and get that into there. Okay, I can already see this video. You won't see it, but it's going to take me forever because I didn't really plan out how I was going to do this. I just kind of had a thought in my mind and thought I would, go ahead and give it a shot. So I want to cover up the spine, but as I was looking at the cover, I like this. I mean, it's, it's Gloria Swanson, but it's kind of a foiled carnation there with her initials. So I was thinking maybe I would leave that. So I found this fabric, which is like it's a light canvas. It's not, just a lightweight cotton. It's a light canvas. So there's a little bit of, bulk to it. So it's almost, kind of like a book cloth would be. So I think I'm going to use this just to cover this part of the spine. And we're going to leave the edges for now. And who knows, maybe I'll go back later and add some decoration or something to it. I mean, since this is my ephemera holder, I can do it any way I want. I don't have to worry about, what's going out to somebody else or something like that. So that being said, I'm just going to take a piece of this and I'm going to cut it down to size. So I'm just going to cut it, the width here, which is about, I can find a spot that I don't have junk everywhere. It's about 5 inches wide. And then I think this is a little over 9, this is almost a 9.5 inch tall book. So I want to add at least an inch onto each side, the top and the bottom. So that would give me 11.5 inches, but I think I'll go ahead and just add 3 inches for good measure. So 12.5 inches by 5 inches wide. So that's what I'm going to cut it down to start with. And then we're just going to cover this part here. So, I'm going to cut it probably a little bit, even just a little bit bigger because, a lot of times when fabric is cut, it's not cut square. So I'm going to need to give myself some room to square things off as we go. So 12.5 inches tall, we said. I'm going to, actually, I think this is only, about 18 inches long as it is. So I'm just going to line up the one edge here. I don't know if that's called a selvage edge, if that's the correct terminology for this, but I'm going to cut off that little 1/2 inch where there's no pattern and hopefully give myself a straight edge. So can't cut quite all the way to the top. So just use my scissors for the end there. And then that didn't have anything on it, so we can throw that out. And then I'm just going to move it over and do another cut to give me at least the 5 inches that I was looking for. So I'm going to, and actually what I may do first, since I know I want it to be 12.5 inches tall, and that's pretty generous. I know my 12.5 inches was pretty generous. So I'm just going to line up my fabric with one of my guides here on my cutting mat. And I'm going to try to cut it at about 13 inches. Actually, I have it down a little lower. So I'm going to cut it at 12.5 inches across just a little bit because I don't want to cut all this fabric apart. Now, I don't know if I can do this in this angle, but I'm going to try. Okay. So I know that I started at 3, so this is a little more than 5 inches, but that's perfect for me to cut things down. So I kind of know how far I can go up and I don't have to cut that whole piece off, if that makes any sense. Okay, so I'm going to try and line this up again. I have my 12.5 inches here, and then I'm just going to make this as straight as possible since I can't really see my guides underneath, and cut it off. I know it's going to be a little bit big, but this will give me some room to straighten out, cut it down and straighten out the edges to make sure it's the right size. I definitely don't want it to be too short, so that's kind of one of the main reasons I want to be sure I have a little bit over my measurements until we get it cut down. Okay, so now I'm going to try to see how square this is. So I'm going to line this up on an inch mark over here and line this up, and actually, wow, it looks really not bad, which is not normal for me to have something that good. Usually it's like way off and I'm cutting things off. It's a teeny bit off, but I think that'll be okay. So I do have to, I'm going to cut it down. Let me just make sure. I think I've got my 12.5 inches here. Yep, a little bit more. So I could cut some of that down. And actually this is kind of a rough edge there. So maybe I'll cut that one down. So I'm going to line this up over here. And then my 12.5 inches should be right here. And I have some room that I can cut this off and have a nice straight edge there. That looks good. And now I will just, looks like I do have 4, 5, 6 inches, which is a little big. Let's take a look at how that looks here. Yeah, I think if I leave it at 6, I'm going to end up, you know, covering up some of my rows here. So I definitely am going to try and cut it down to match that size. So once again, we'll line it up. And I'm going to take 1 inch off. And you can see here, I don't maybe think that it was as square as I thought it was. You can see it's not quite square there. So it's probably good that I'm doing this, unless I'm getting it wrong, which we'll find out in just a minute. I think I got it. So I think that if I make sure that when I glue it down, I line it up on, you know, my front cover edge as best as I can, then if the back cover edge is a little bit off, or if you can see a little bit of the old book cloth there on the spine, that'll be okay. So I think that's going to work perfect. So I'm just going to get to it and start gluing it down. Now I'm just going to use my Fabri-Tac here, but what I am going to do is I'm going to, actually this isn't Fabri-Tac, this is the 3-in-1 glue, but I think they're the same thing. I'm just going to spread the glue on. I'm going to start at, well, let's see, this, usually I would start in the middle, but because I want to be sure this lines up, you know, really good on the cover side, I may start with the cover side and just go piece by piece over. So I think that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start, put a little glue right here, and I'm going to use my finger. You could use a, you know, an old credit card, gift card, hotel key or something like that to spread it out if you want to. I find my finger works pretty good, so I'm just going to use my finger, and I'm going to get a lot of glue. Right, not a lot, but generous glue on here. And the reason I'm spreading it out is that sometimes this glue, if you don't, you'll see the ridges in it if you glue something down, especially fabric, something porous, you know, you're going to see, sometimes you'll see the ridges. So I'm just spreading it out. I'm trying to get it as close to that edge. We may have to come back in there and do a little edging later. And of course, I have to decide which way up I want this. Actually, I kind of like it that way, although I don't like that edge too much. So it kind of looks upside down like that, doesn't it? All right, we're going to go this way. I'll probably put something on that edge later. Okay, so I'm just making sure I'm getting it right to the edge of my book cloth that's there, and then pressing it down. And I think I'm going to take my time and do this after each piece dries so that I don't end up pulling something up that's still wet. So now that I have that glued down, I'm going to let it dry. When it's dry, I'm going to pull this back and do just the crease and then let that dry. And then when that's dry, then I'll glue the whole spine, do that, let it dry, do the next crease, let it dry, and then do the last piece and let it dry, so that I don't end up, you know, pulling something over and then having this edge show, which I didn't want to happen. So I'll do that time-lapsed fast because it's going to take me a while to let that happen, and I may walk away from it while that happens.